Have you ever given someone everything they seemed to want and watched them walk away the moment you did? Not because you said something wrong, not because you pushed too hard, but simply because you stopped pretending you did not care. You let them in, you made your feelings clear, and then, almost as if that honesty triggered something in them, they disappeared. The warmth was gone, the effort vanished, and you were left trying to understand what you did to make that happen. This is one of the most disorienting experiences in relationships because it inverts everything you have been taught about love. You were told that honesty brings people closer, that showing feelings is a sign of strength, that when two people care for each other, things naturally grow. But here, the opposite happened, and the confusion that follows can make you doubt your instincts, your worth, and your ability to trust your own emotions for a very long time. If this has happened to you, there is something important you need to hear before anything else. This was not your fault. And if you find value in understanding these psychological patterns, consider subscribing to Neuropsychology for more insights into human behavior. The pain of this experience is not just about losing someone. It is about the specific way the loss happened. You did not get rejected before they knew you. You got rejected after the connection was already built, after the vulnerability was already shared, after you genuinely believed it was safe to feel something real. That timing is what makes it cut deeper than ordinary rejection, because it teaches a dangerous lesson that love is a trap, that caring openly means losing, that the safest thing to do is never let anyone see how much you want them. But that lesson is wrong, and understanding the real psychology behind why this pattern happens is the first step toward unlearning it completely. The first reason some people lose interest when you love them back is that they were never really chasing you. They were chasing the feeling that comes from the chase itself. There's a neurological explanation for this. When someone is pursuing another person, the brain releases dopamine in anticipation of a reward. The uncertainty is the engine. Not knowing whether you will choose them keeps the reward system continuously activated. It is the same process that makes gambling feel so compelling. The brain is not hooked on the winning, it is hooked on not knowing whether it will win. The moment you made your feelings clear, that uncertainty ended, and so did the neurochemical response that felt like attraction. You did not become less interesting as a person, you became a certainty, and to a brain wired this way, certainty stops producing the reward. What they experienced as desire for you was largely a response to not fully having you. Once they had you, the sensation dissolved, not because you failed them in any way, but because the feeling was never really rooted in who you are as a person. The second reason involves a fear of real intimacy that hides very cleverly behind the pursuit, and this is where many people get genuinely confused, because these individuals can seem incredibly open and emotionally available at the beginning. They share things, they reach out consistently, they create a real sense of being seen and understood. But there's an important difference between seeking intimacy and actually being able to hold it. During the pursuit, they remain in control of how close things get. They can share just enough to feel connected without ever becoming fully exposed. But when you love them back, the emotional distance closes. Real intimacy becomes not just possible, but expected. And for someone who learned early in life that being truly known leads eventually to rejection, that closeness activates fear rather than comfort. Their nervous system reads your love as a threat rather than as a gift, and so they pull away. Not because they stopped caring, but because caring this deeply and being cared for this openly is more than their emotional wiring knows how to hold safely. The third reason is that some people fall in love with who they imagine you to be rather than who you actually are. When you were emotionally distant, when your feelings were still uncertain or hidden, they could project anything onto you. You became a canvas. Every gap in their understanding of you was filled with whatever they most wanted to find. Perfectly patient, endlessly understanding, exciting in precisely the right ways. But it goes deeper than that. The moment you became emotionally present, the moment you expressed real feelings and real needs and real complexity, the projection could no longer hold. They were not rejecting you as a person, they were grieving the imagined version of you they had constructed. And rather than doing the harder and more honest work of learning who you actually are, they simply moved on, looking for someone new to project onto, someone still far enough away that the fantasy remains intact. This cycle follows them into every relationship they enter until the day they choose to examine it. The fourth reason is rooted in a belief that they are fundamentally unworthy of being loved. This one is deeply deeply painful to witness from the outside, because it means that the very thing you offered them, real and unconditional care, became the thing that frightened them most. Some people carry an internal narrative so ingrained they cannot even see it clearly. A belief that if someone truly knew them, truly saw all of them, that person would eventually leave. Think about that for a moment. So when you stayed, when you showed them love without conditions or games, their mind struggled to accept it. Instead of feeling safe, they felt suspicious. Instead of relaxing into the connection, they began searching for the catch. And when no catch appeared, they created distance to protect themselves from the loss they were absolutely certain was coming. They left before you could leave first, not because you gave them any reason to go, but because their own sense of worth could not hold the weight of being genuinely loved by someone real. The fifth reason is that some people are ultimately seeking validation rather than connection. And from the outside, these two motivations can appear almost identical. They pursue with real intensity, they seem fully invested, they create conditions where something meaningful could genuinely grow, but their underlying need is not a relationship, it is confirmation. They want to know that someone like you could want someone like them, that they are worthy enough to be chosen by a person they admire. You may have noticed this yourself. The moment you made your feelings clear, the moment the question of whether you wanted them was finally answered, something in their energy shifted almost immediately because the confirmation arrived. The validation they were actually seeking had been received, and with that question resolved, there was nothing left to keep them engaged. Your love gave them the exact answer they came looking for, and once that answer was clear, the question lost all its power to hold them. So what do you do when you understand all of this? The first thing is to stop turning the experience against yourself. When someone loses interest after you opened up, the mind instinctively searches for what you did wrong, whether you moved too fast, whether you were too available, whether you said too much too soon. But this pattern does not live in what you did. It lives entirely in the other person, in their fear, their unresolved wounds, their need for external confirmation. You did not love incorrectly. You loved honestly, and honest love revealed something in them that had nothing to do with your worth. The second thing is to pay close attention to how someone behaves after reciprocation, not just during pursuit. People in the grip of these patterns often say exactly the right things. They pursue with everything they have, but behavior after the feelings become truly mutual is the real test of what someone actually wants. Do they grow closer when you open up, or do they gradually drift? Do they become more consistent over time, or do reasons to be unavailable start appearing? That shift in the days and weeks after you show feelings reveals more truth than anything they said while they were still chasing. The third thing is to give your emotional honesty the protection it deserves. This does not mean closing yourself off or becoming strategic about feelings. It means understanding that deep vulnerability is something of genuine value. It belongs with people who have demonstrated through consistent behavior over time that they are capable of receiving it carefully. Let consistency earn the fullness of what you have to offer, not intensity, not charm, consistent, reliable presence. And the most important thing to hold on to through all of this is that nothing here means love itself is unsafe. It means you encountered someone who was not ready for it. Those are entirely different things. The ability to love openly, to show your feelings without hiding behind distance, to let someone in before you have a guarantee, is not a flaw. It is one of the clearest signs of emotional health and genuine courage that a person can demonstrate. The people who are genuinely ready for connection do not run when you show them care. They do not grow cold the moment you stop being mysterious. They stay. They grow closer over time. They treat your honesty like something they have been waiting for, because to someone who is genuinely ready, it is. You were never, ever too much. You were simply offering something completely real to someone who had only ever learned how to want something they could not fully have. And when you find someone who moves closer the more you open up, everything that once left you confused will finally make complete sense.